Right now, try not to comment on that. So let's move on to something else. Government has been accused of collapsing the book publishing and printing industry in the country. According to the Printers and Paper Converters Association, policies by government, including the high level of taxes placed on printing materials, are such that printers are unable to recoup their investments, causing many of them to fold up. Now, let's have an explanation. Let's get more on this from the Printers and Paper Converters Association. Joining me in the studio is James Appiah Beko. He's president of the Printers and Paper Converters Association. James, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Why do you say government is collapsing the publishing industry?
The printing industry is part of the entire book trade, and getting books done in the tangible way is the work of the printer.
Okay.
And this is one of the areas where we have difficulty in the book production line. There is a tax regime that is unfavorable to the production of books. Why do I say so? When you import or buy inputs for the production of books, you have to pay taxes on the inputs. And these taxes add up to 41%. In other words, producing books for the market has a disadvantage of tax regime that levies 41% on it. The sad part of this issue is that when books are printed or produced outside the country, they enter our market free of these taxes.
When books are imported,
right,
it's free of charge.
Yes.
But when you import the materials to produce books locally, you pay 41% tax.
Yes. In other words, one is always better off getting their books printed or produced outside Ghana. So the local printer is saddled with the problem of being able to compete with any other books printed or produced outside Ghana that would be entering our market. And so when it comes to book production, the local industry is being stifled. And that is the beef of the time now.
Why won't you just import then?
Of course I would, if I didn't have equipment. Or if I hadn't invested in a production line. But many of us, or my association, knows that a number of our members have already committed to investments that are now lying idle, that are reaping for jobs. Another side of it is that we are losing jobs. People are not getting employed, simply because of a tax regime that is not book production friendly.
This is not the first time that this issue of taxes on importing materials for book printing in the country has come up. What's been the engagements with government? Because I recall also that government decided to allocate some percentage, I think about 60%, for schools here in the country. So what's been the engagement with government? What has it been like?
We're talking about two things: engaging government, and the second one is some talk on 60% allocation of locally produced books to the print industry in the country. Well, let's take the 60% allocation. It is in the government's own book production and distributing policy that 60% of all Ghana government procured books, whether the funding is from the Ghana government funds or even donor agencies, 60% of such acquisitions of books or purchases of books should be allocated to the local industry for production. And this is what would have made everybody quite happy. And this was supposed to have been implemented by the year 2005. And that was a precursor to getting a number of entrepreneurs entering into procuring and acquiring printing equipment ready to be part of the production, introduction of the new production system. Such equipment is what it has become a white elephant to many printing industries, and hence your introduction saying that industries are collapsing. They are collapsing because their anticipations and dreams have been cut short by this policy, which should have started sometime late in the 90s and should have peaked by the year 2005. Is it even working? It isn't, I would say. It isn't. And the second part of the question that you asked is, has there been any engagement? Absolutely. Of course, there have been a number of engagements and a number of excuses and a number of some form of explanation has been made over the years. Indeed, I must admit and say, just about 3 weeks ago, the Deputy Minister for Education did intimate, in fact, he came on air and did say that come the next year, coming year, books bought by the Ministry of Education will be bought for or printed by local printers. Indeed, we are a little not too optimistic because we have had such provinces before.
Yeah.
All right.
That's true.
So that's the reason we want to be a little too careful before we begin to jubilate or celebrate this announcement.
I see. But then, the other thing is, government might be your biggest buyer. But beyond government, how are publishers and printers positioning themselves well enough to be able to get the kind of supports they need from the rest of the country?
Right. Let's look at, there is the scenario where one could have been a little more content with whatever they got. The second aspect of it is that it is all books that are printed in the country, all raw materials procured to print any form of book that is levied with these taxes. Government procured books until when it starts, the new regime starts, also attract the same kind of tax regime or tax system. So the ordinary publisher who has a manuscript to produce any book for the local market is faced with the problem of deciding whether or not he should produce the book here and pay the taxes on the books, on the raw materials, or even print his own titles outside Ghana because it is cheaper that way. And so even other books that are produced by local publishers, not for government procurement, have also begun
outside the country.
Perfectly, because everyone is in business to maximize profit. And it is not the fault, so to say, of the publisher not procuring their books locally, because if they did so, they wouldn't be competitive. In other words, the book production industry is being taxed to be unproductive. A recent research of our industry with the collaboration of Busak Fund has revealed that in the last 6 years, the print industry alone has lost 2,049 of their staff. They have been laid off in 6 years. 2,049. In other words, the industry is going through a very difficult,
turbulent time indeed.
It is.
But we'll leave our conversation here for now. Perhaps in the future we'll find time to extend it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
James Appiah Berko is president of the Printers and Paper Converters Association of Ghana.